Hello, this is a guide for my Bladefall Blade Blast Cast on Crit Assassin. We have just crossed the 200 million DPS mark, and this build has just crushed all content in the game from League Star up until this point. This is an insane all-around character. You can do anything you want with this build, and in this video I'll go over all the gear, gems, jewels, and the passive tree, including complete crafting guide clips for every major piece over on my Twitch/PathofKY, as well as a full step-by-step written leveling and endgame guide for all budget levels and POB, which I will link below. I'll first off with a brief overview of the mechanics of the build. We are playing Cast on Crit, Lancing Steel Spring, Blade Blast, Blade Fall, all in the same setup. All this means is that you are one button, you're walking around pressing Lancing Steel Spring, and every single time it's going to rain blade falls, and all the blades will automatically be blade blasted. The important thing to know about Lancing Steel Spring when you're using a double spell cast on crit setup is that, unlike Cyclone, you do not need to have an extremely precise amount of attack speed and cooldown recovery rate in order to not brick all of your damage. We are essentially brute forcing the cast on crit due to the way that the Lancing Steel Spring projectiles work with the server tick rate and cast on crit. You don't need to worry about it. All you need to do is press your button and you're fine. We also use an Animate Guardian Spectre setup because we have so many free slots. There is just nothing better to use, and you get a lot of good buffs out of this. A Zealotry Spectre for like 7C. I'm using a Perfect Forest Tiger, which is a bit expensive, but you can also use things like a Perfect Forest Warrior or a Perfect Warlord. There's lots of good Spectres you could use over this thing. We use Shield Charge and Frostblink for movement, and in maps you are so unbelievably fast on this build. It is like you are wearing two Mage Bloods without ever wearing a Mage Blood. Next up, I'm going to go over all the gear. Keep in mind that this is the end game version of the character, and you do not need any of this stuff to crush all content in the game. Literally 1/5 of this budget, and you are just good to do all Ubers and everything that you would ever want to do. I'm going to hover over each piece of gear in case any of you want to immediately copy it, and afterwards I'm going to go through each piece of gear, talk about how they work together, gear stat priorities, including crafting guides for every piece. Next up, I'm just going to talk about our foil here. The most important stats are going to be the critical strike chance and attack speed on a good foil base. I go for a battered foil, which you can get by re-rolling foils on a low-level character in town. You can also use a burnished foil. Other foils are okay as well, but those are the two best bases. Later on, you go for getting the crit strike multiplier and a woe essence or a veiled prefix spell damage. We have our helmet here. This is just boat crafted. Most important stats on this are the T1 life. You want T1 or T2 at the lowest life on basically every single piece of gear on this build, and then followed by the evasion rating, energy shield, and then you cap out with just res, and that is it. On the helmet specifically, you can also go for loathing essences. I think in the absolute pinnacle, that is what I would go for if I were to go back and redo this helmet, but I don't have it here. We have a fractured spell suppression shield. This is just the most important thing is the spell suppression, the T1 life, and then as much evasion rating energy shield as possible. You are going to see a theme here. You can also craft spells, or you can also craft percentage chance to do double damage as your last suffix if you have the resistances available to do so. We have a focused amulet craft. You know, these things became a little bit painful to craft after they made it so that you cannot imprint them anymore, but I have a full crafting guide for this. This is just like kind of the middle end game level of this thing. The true end game of this would be rolling with Scorns and then doing some recombinator action, but again, I have crafting guides for both of those. We have a +1 power charge Ming's Heart. The anger reservation efficiency doesn't do anything. You just want to get a Ming's Heart. That is your starting ring. It is a core item. It's just 60% more damage on a ring. Quality catalysted up with a chaos damage quality. And I picked up one with a +1 power charge for a hefty sum. I think it was like 20 div. I think I actually got a kind of a good deal on it. I don't know, but yeah. We have a Skin of the Lord's Mind Over Matter variant. Now this is going to be the biggest bottleneck on items in this entire build, but you do not have to use this. There's not many of these in supply. The chest is just simply too uncommon coming out of the tree or the boss fight, and landing specifically the Mind Over Matter variant is rough, but that is okay because instead of this you can just use a Cloak of Defiance with a +2 AoE Gems Corruption, or even a +1 Gems Corruption with an Empower in there would be the same thing pretty much. And yeah, that was just what you'd use as a replacement. Before this, you are just using a typical evasion rating energy shield necrotic armor. We have our ring here with a Delve mod, Fractured, Chaos Damage Leeches Life. You do not need this. You can get the Chaos Damage Leeches Life as an Eldritch Implicit Eater of Worlds on your gloves. T1 life, rolled with Scorns, Res, ES is a bonus. Gloves, same thing. Life, evasion rating, energy shield, resistances. Crafting, increased damage while leeching. Since we are spending a lot of our energy shield, this should be active like a vast majority of the time, since we are Eldritch Battery. On nerve on hit, and then as your second mod, you would either get the chaos damage, leeches life, if you do not have the delve ring, and increased effective marks is the second best thing on here. As for belt, Headhunter, this is actually very bad for us. You don't really want to be using a Headhunter. I'll talk about why. So how bifurcation works for Assassin is it rolls to see if you crit. If you crit, great, it rolls again and checks if you crit. If you crit again, boom, you have now double crit multi, basically. Headhunter, though, has a line that you can take from a mob that says always crits. This line bricks bifurcation for Assassin. So if you have any source of guaranteed critting, that is a Diamond Shrine, Headhunter buff from always crits, or maybe someone linking you with like a Tripanon or something like that, then you cannot benefit from bifurcation, because bifurcation never actually rolls for a crit. You are just guaranteed that crit, and since it can't roll twice, and therefore you cannot get double crit multi. So technically, by wearing a Headhunter, you are actually losing 80% more damage. The funny part about this is I have this on in the showcase. It just doesn't even matter that you're losing all that damage. You know, Headhunter is still a Headhunter. It gives you a ton of defensive buffs, and it would be much better suited to use a Mage Blood in this build, though. But Headhunter for mapping, you know, a bunch of defensive buffs, and the damage that you get out of it from the buffs equalizes about, kind of. We have a thread crafted, boat crafted, thread crafted, a double awakened, double elevated, excuse me, pair of boots. Full crafting guide for this. These things are very crazy. They are very expensive. I would only ever grab these after basically you have a Mage Blood or a Headhunter. You can make a super cheap pair of these by just buying a pair of boots with an open suffix that have good stats on them, and then just boat slamming for the cooldown recovery rate with the Crusader's Exalted Orb. Next up, I'll go over our jewels. For our rare jewels, #1 priority is just getting a maximum life roll on all of them, including a global physical damage, area damage, spell damage, global critical strike multiplier, and spell critical strike multiplier. Our pool of mods are pretty thin on rare jewels, but that is what you're looking for. We have a Light of Meaning, chaos damage variant. The phys damage works as well, but that one is more expensive. As for our Forbidden Flame and Flesh set, early on, I went for a Flame and Flesh set for any Assassin node. That would be the Mystical Infusion, Deathmarked, or Mistwalker. Any of those, and then I took the Pharaoh's Bloodline Ascendancy for crit chance and then the attack speed. You can use this to swap off the increased critical strikes gem on your gear, and then replace it with either Empower 4 or increased critical damage. Later on, you will go for either Perfect Crime, if your computer can handle it, because this is going to double the amount of leech that you're getting at the cost of having the amount of doubling the amount of CPU load that you have. These things are gonna, they're tough. Okay, they're tough. You can also get instead the CDR jewels from Saboteur. Those ones are basically slightly worse, just by a couple percentage than using these ones, but it does not cause you nearly as much strain. As for our Watcher's Eye jewel, there is a million things you can go for here. One of them is actually going to be Vitality, Life on Hit, and Discipline, Life on Hit combo. That would pretty much circumvent every single thing in the game. The only way that you are going to be able to lose HP when playing this is either if you are one shot, which is very uncommon, or if you are going through immunity phases on uber bosses, because you cannot leech life from something that is immune. So if you had a double gain on hit eye, if you were planning to do an uber boss farmer, then you could use that to sit through all the immunity phases, just hit the boss and just tank every single ability. Okay. The mods that I went for here are going to be the suppression. You can cap that on your gear. You do not need that. Evade Grace, chance to evade while Grace is very good. You have Damage taken from Mana Before Life Clarity with the Arrogance Clarity. That one improves your map's hit quite a bit. I would recommend going for that one. You have attack speed precision, not really important, mainly just for feel. Crit multi precision would be a lot more damage. That's pretty much it that I can think of off the top of my. Next time I'm going over our gem setups. For our main link, we have Greater Spell Cascade, Blade Fall, Cast on Crit, Empower, Blade Blast, and Lancing Steel Spraying. You should only really use an Empower if you have either a +1 Cloak of Defiance or a Skin of the Lords on. We have our Shield with faster attacks, Shield Charge, Frost Blink, Enlighten, Flesh and Stone, Grace, Herald of Ash, Convocation, Steel Skin, Automation, Arrogance, Vitality, Precision, Arctic Armor, and then a Meat Shield with Raise Spectre, Minion Life, and Animate Guardian. And this is our passive tree that we're working with. Early on, you are pathing all the way down to Mind Over Matter, but once you have either a Cloak of Defiance on or the Skin of the Lord's Mind Over Matter variant, then you can take this off and fit in an additional Cluster Jewel setup. You're basically just keeping all these lines since we're double dipping by converting to Chaos. The most important things here are going to be the Overwhelming Malice on your medium Cluster Jewel. You can also get it on a large Cluster Jewel, doesn't really matter. Pressure Points, Basics of Pain, the usual stuff, Grim Oath, Unwavering Evil, clusters on both of these. I went for one AoE cluster, Vast Power, Towering Threat. I don't know if you really need this or if it's necessarily good. The attacks are the area of effect breakpoints are a little bit weird when you're working in this in the exact same setup, both being affected by spell cascades, less AoE. So you know, instead of overlapping more with blade blasts, you know, we're more about having both these just constantly spamming over each other. So that's going to be it from me. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more updates to this build or builds I do in the future, subscribe now. I'm live right now and every single day at Twitch/PathofKY, so stop on by and I will help you out, answer any questions you may have, or if you want to see the build in action. I'm pretty much ready to go next build here at this point. I've got some pretty good ideas, so stay tuned for that. Leave a comment below in the comment section if you have any questions. I will get back to you as soon as I see you. I'm just gonna leave some raw footage at the end here showcasing a full map so you can get an idea if this is something you like to play. And yeah, thanks for watching. Just a little PSA, this is going to be like a max juice 100% delirium breach map. If you want to see some regular non-headhunter, non-nonsense high-end gameplay, please check out one of the previous videos. I have lower budget setups showing some regular maps as well.
Just need a moment.
Wanderlust. Belt of the Deceiver. Mage Blood.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Subscribe now and like the video.